Hello everyone and welcome to Mobility Academy and the Flexibility Guy, Coach Elia. And in today's video I'll be with movement coach Carol, or Carol.upside down, which as you may guess is a movement coach. So we'll be talking about handstands and flexibility because we posted on our page a box where people could ask us their questions, all right? And we selected the top 5 questions we can answer, all right? And we'll be doing that in this video right here. All right, so are you ready? Let's go.
Hi, I'm Carol. I'm a hand balancer and personal coach, and for this video I teamed up with Elia to answer 5 of your most asked flexibility and handstand questions. So let's go.
So the first question is this: what are the possible reasons why I can't hold a proper pelvis position in a handstand? And I'm not in a handstand, I'm sitting on my chair, but I want you to explain that in a handstand. So let me explain to you this concept right here when I'm doing a handstand. All right, one person is asking here, what may be the possible reason why I can't move my pelvis correctly in a handstand? So there may be 2 possible reasons, your shoulders and your pelvis. Let me show you, all right? So when you are in your handstand position, if you move your shoulders too much in front or too much behind your hands, as you can say here, all right, it will break your handstand line, all right? So the solution here is to keep your shoulders above your hands. But if you just rotate your pelvis, like you just close your pelvis in this way here, can you see the legs are not squared with the rest of my body? But if I extend my hips here, all right, I push up and I open my hips rather than closing my hips, I'm opening my hips while I'm keeping my back straight. This is going to create a straight line. But as you can see here, my back is straight, but my hips are closed. Here, my hips are opened, but still, my back is straight, all right? So, 2 possible reasons. If your shoulders move, your body moves, all right? Second reason, if you close your hips, but you keep your hips closed here, all right, so you flatten your back, but your hips are closed, you won't be in a straight line. You gotta straighten your back, but you gotta open your hips, all right? So, 2 main reasons, 2 solutions. Have fun.
Well, there can be different reasons to that. The way to go about this is always work your way from the bottom up. If the bottom part is not squared, it's quite difficult to square up the part above that. So make sure you're fully pushing out from both of your shoulders so you stay even in that part. Also really engage your core to keep that straight and not kind of arch you into any direction. And then of course it comes to your hips. I see a lot of people who kick up always with the same leg, and then they also kind of rotate that leg that's kicking up first, and like they turning out the hip, which could end up in a not squared hip in your handstand. So to avoid that problem, there's of course a long-term version. You start kicking up with both legs and learn how to control the kick up on both sides. Another thing you can do, it could be a quick fix for that problem, is that you exaggerate the internal rotation of that leg that is kicking up. This way you might be able to square up your hips and get them even as soon as you close your legs. Another thing that might help the muscle engagement and keep the whole handstand symmetrical is squeezing your feet together. So when your feet meet at the top, make sure you press them into each other to engage muscles on both sides, and this can also help your general feeling of really pulling up in your handstand and make it all symmetrical.
Second question, in a handstand I find my balance when my knuckles are not touching the floor. Is that normal? So again, here I'm sitting on my chair, I'm not in a handstand, but I do want to explain to you the solution to this problem in a handstand. All right, the person here is asking why she can't find the balance in a handstand while their knuckles are not touching the floor, like this. All right, so there are different grips you can use in a handstand, mainly 3, all right? The first standard, all right, the one I use as well, with the base of your index finger and all the knuckles touching the floor, all right, and the fingers straight. Second one, same, but the fingers are like curled this way. They are bent like this. They're gripping the floor like that. And the third, cup hands. So your knuckles are not touching the floor. And I have seen strong, really strong imbalances using one technique or the other. It doesn't matter. All right, so as long as you can find your balance, it's good. All right, so everything works. All right, it depends on the personal situation. I suggest using the standard grip here, because if you keep your fingers straight, you can of course have a much greater base of support to balance on. And if you keep the knuckles on the floor, it will relax your forearms, and it will allow you to have a greater base of support and a greater sense of balance. But it's up to you. All right, just use the grip you want.
So that is kind of talking about the thing where you're like grabbing the floor and then your hand works its way up, so this part of the hand is not touching the floor anymore. And you might have heard of it. People tell you when working on handstand you should put pressure into this part of the hand. I know it can get very difficult, especially when you're like kind of struggling with the balance to keep that part of the hand on the floor. Still, it is normal that this part of the hand lifts up and you can still catch balance or practice your handstand there. Overall, if you want to progress in your handstand, you should still try to put that part of the hand on the floor as much as you can to keep more pressure on the inside of your hands to make it easier to progress to more advanced skills. One thing that can help with that are wrist push-ups. This is a drill where you place your hand flat on the ground and then push up, focus on keeping the pressure in this point of the hand, and go back down again. You can do that like in a 4-foot stand, and this will strengthen your wrist as well, help you get the awareness of pushing that part of the hand on the ground. Overall, don't worry too much about putting that part of the hand on the floor. Focus on your balance and shape first, and after some time you will get a better feeling on how to work with your hands and how to position them best on the floor.
Question number 3, what's the best way to gain back flexibility? So if you're talking about the back, as for the back bridge, so the back extension, I'm supposing you're asking this, then the bridge is kind of a very particular stretching position, because you do need flexibility not only on your back but also on your shoulders, on your triceps, and on the front part of your trunk. All right, so your abs, your chest, as well as your lats. So you do want to start from the anatomy of the position. What are the muscles you need to stretch in order to improve this kind of range of motion? And you'll immediately find that there are a lot of muscles that may limit this movement right here. So the movement of the extension, the pecs, the abs, the lats, the triceps, the shoulders, all right? And these are the muscles you should stretch with specific exercises. Maybe you don't want to do only bridge walk, because a lot of people think about the bridge as a position you gotta do specifically to improve the bridge, but it's not like that. First, you do want to start with specific stretches for specific muscles. Then you can think about the bridge. And the bridge is a mix between muscles flexibility and also joints flexibility, because the vertebrae you got on your back, and when you extend, they gotta go into extension, all right? And that kind of movement may be limited as you start, but the more you do that, the better you can get, all right? So you do want to focus also on other kind of drills. I'm gonna post a video while I'm talking here on other kind of drills where you can focus on that part of your back, so on the middle part of your back, and just mobilizing that part of your back by extending that part and just moving that part as you wanted to do a bridge. All right, so 2 main solutions: stretch your muscles and then work specifically on spine extension with specific drills. And of course, you do want to invest your time in the bridge as well.
Well, there's not really a best way. It depends a lot on the person, on your prerequisites, on how your stretching or general movement history went in the past. But what is very important to know is that back stretching is, I think, the most complicated part to stretch, because actually there are a lot of joints involved. So you want to make sure you open up your shoulders to use that part of your body to create a back bend. Then as well you need to open your chest and all those single vertebrae that are in your spine over there. Then also, of course, your lower back needs to be open, and then your hips need to get stretched too. So those are the main parts where you can create back flexibility. For hips and shoulders, it's still quite easy, I would say, because there's each only one joint involved. You need to stretch the muscles around, and you should definitely warm up here the muscles a lot. There are tons of drills for hip, flexor, and shoulder stretches you can look into. The more complex part though is the back, because we have 24 vertebrae that have to create those flexibility gains. So it's quite complicated to really open up all these tiny parts, and usually people find some spot that bends more easily than the others and then work all the way through that spot, which is not ideal because you can definitely hurt yourself by doing that, which is why you need to make sure to activate your back muscles as well as core muscles to keep that whole area stable, to be able to control the flexibility you want to gain. So while stretching, definitely keep a lookout for that weak spot you got maybe in your spine where you're taking the most bend out, and then try to also figure out which part is the weaker one, which I know from my experience and also seeing a lot of other people, that might be the upper back. It's very important to learn how to open the chest area and upper back, because actually back stretching is not really stretching the back because you're back bending, so it's actually a stretch of the frontal chain. So you need to learn how to open up your ribs and chest and also like kind of the stomach area while still keeping the engagement to keep your back safe.
Fourth question: how to keep up motivation for flexibility training when the progress is low, and the same of course for handstand training. So I do think that here the main problem is in your mindset, because what if I told you that a position, it is normal that it requires maybe 4 years to be achieved? Would you be in that mental state still? I think not, because when you know that maybe you need 4 years to achieve something and you start, you give yourself time and you're not in such a hurry. Think about when you, I don't know, when you take a course and they say you, okay, this course is gonna take you 3 years. Of course, you do wanna finish the course, but you know that it lasts 3 years. And the same is true here, but people nowadays, they just say maybe other people on Instagram, they see their friends and they compare with others. And in that moment, when you compare with others, you set expectations. So now, don't get me wrong, this is positive, but it's positive until it keeps up motivation. Because when I, for example, when I started training for handstands, my friends were much better than me, and maybe they still are, hopefully, because I do want to have people around me which inspire me to work harder. But I don't want to be in the mental state, and I've been in I had been in that mental state in the past, where I was feeling like, okay, all my friends are better than me, and I just suck. And it's taking too long, I want to quit. I was in that mental state. But then I realized, okay, I must do what I can. I must follow my progress. I must work hard. So I gotta watch them, how they work, how they do that, how they train, etc. I want to do maybe exactly the same, but I can't expect the same results. Because if they're better, it's not only maybe for their work, maybe they're more skilled, maybe they're more talented. There's something that in nature exists. So we have to keep an eye on that. But of course, we want to do our best, the best we can. All right. So don't compare yourself to others. Inspire yourself with the people you have around you, okay, but always compare yourself with yourself. All right, that's the idea. And in this way, you won't be scared about the years or maybe the time you need to make progress. All right, it will happen. It will happen. Just work hard, and it will happen, because you'll reach the best version of yourself.
I, for example, sometimes use a journal where I write down the exercises and reps I did, and also write some notes how it went, so I don't look at every single training, but rather just look at the work I've put in, and then over time I will see some progress. For that, I also regularly take videos, so I can always skip back and look at old videos, rather some from like a month ago than the video from last training, because there you will most likely see the progress and see the long-term advance you did in your training. Make sure you're not comparing your current training always with the best one you ever had, because there will definitely be fluctuations in your progress. You cannot expect to be better than last practice every time. So keep that in mind, keep it real, and enjoy the long-term gains. And if you're really struggling to stay motivated while doing your training, think about hiring a coach. That way you can kind of hand off the responsibility for your progress and can fully focus on the individual drills. Because someone else will make sure you're doing the right drills, you're doing the right execution, and also someone else has a look out for potential detours you will go and take because you're using a wrong technique or you learning mistakes. It's always very useful to have someone from the outside looking at it and be able to tell you, hey, make sure you're engaging that muscle, make sure you're feeling this or that, to make sure you're not kind of training any mistakes.
Fifth and last question. In what extent is it possible to increase the range of motion in the shoulders? Alright, so the shoulder is the most flexible joint in our body. It can cover a lot of range of motion, it can move in every direction, and it is the only joint who can do that, alright? And when it comes to the shoulders flexibility, I'm also really aware of the situation, because I myself have a very flexible shoulders, but it's not a flexibility that helps me. It is a flexibility that has been, just to say the least, has been a huge limit for me, because I dislocated both my shoulders and it's not getting better. So I must control my flexibility or my shoulder pops out. So the main message here is this. Is it possible to increase shoulders flexibility until you dislocate your shoulders? Because if you work on that joint flexibility more and more, all right, you're gonna get loose. Because the ligaments around the shoulder joint are not the same ligaments you have maybe in your hips or around your elbow or around your knee, etc., which are really tight. In your shoulder joint, they're not tight. It's not a big news to hear that someone dislocated his or her shoulder. Maybe falling, maybe with an accident, I don't know. But it's not it's not rare to hear it, all right? So what does it teach us? It teaches us that we must pay attention to this. You can improve your shoulders flexibility until you want. Of course, it'll take time. But I do think that you should stop and you should set a kind of a limit, you know? You do want to have a limit. You do want to say, all right, why should I increase my shoulders flexibility? Should I perform a handstand? Then maybe I just need the shoulders flexibility to perform a correct handstand. Do I want to reach a bridge? Then I do need my shoulders flexibility to perform the bridge. No more. So the shoulder can move in every direction. And you must understand where is your limit. Also in my book, Shoulders Range, I've talked about that a lot, because this is really important. When it comes to the shoulder, you got a lot of muscles that move the shoulder, the pecs, the lats, the triceps, a lot of muscles, or maybe the whole upper body, like connects with the shoulder in some way. In some way, the majority of the muscles of the upper body connect with the shoulder, are connected to the shoulder. All right. So you do want to find where your weak link is, and work on that specifically if you have some kind of limitation. Maybe you're asking this question because you are kind of struggling to improve a kind of a specific range or something like that. You're asking that for this reason. And if that is the reason, try to understand where you're lacking range of motion, why you're lacking range of motion, why you do want to achieve that range of motion. And once you got these answers in mind, start working on that range of motion specifically, and try to analyze that range of motion and try to think about the muscles that move your body in that range of motion and stretch them in order to achieve a better performance, a better range of motion. All right, so that's my take on the 5th question.
This question came from a person who is not struggling with the legs, but mainly with their shoulders, and is thus wondering if it is the same. So first of all, yes, it is technically the same. You have to do stretches, you have to do active stretches. There are some people who have an easier time stretching the legs and gaining mobility there, and there are others who have an easier time with their shoulders or are not struggling with opening their shoulders. And of course, there are also some people who are not struggling with any of that, or struggling with both. So there can definitely also be anatomical limitations to your range of motion in your shoulders, but the same thing can also happen to your hips. In the end, it comes down to the same thing: doing the right drills in an effective intensity and of course the right way. Same thing counts for your hips as for your shoulders. As I said, of course there can be anatomical limitations to it, but usually most people can reach a 180 degree in their shoulders or even more if they work for it adequately.
Alright guys, so it's been a real pleasure to answer to these 5 questions with Carol Upside Down. She's a wonderful coach. I've been following her on Instagram and on her channels for a while now, and I can say that she's skilled and she knows what she's doing. So thank you so much, Carol, for answering with me to these 5 questions. Remember, if you do want to follow her, check out her Instagram page, carol.upsidedown. Remember also that if you enjoyed the content, you can leave a like and you can leave a comment also down below, and we'll answer to your questions. All right, that's all from Carol and from me, the Flexibility Guy. See you in the next video. Bye.